Imagine this. You're at work, pouring your heart into a job you're really good at. You spent years mastering your craft, fixing problems most people wouldn't know where to start with. Then someone walks in, takes one look at you, and decides you're not good enough. Not because of your skills, but because of how you look. That's exactly what happened to me in a busy bike shop on a chaotic Saturday. A woman strolled in with her high-end bike, dripping with entitlement, and demanded someone more experienced than me. My blood boiled, but I smiled. Oh, did I smile? Because what happened next? It was the kind of petty, satisfying justice that makes you want to high-five karma itself. Stick around, because this story of sweet revenge is one you won't forget. If you've ever been underestimated, disrespected, or written off by someone who thought they were better than you, this story is going to hit home. Hit that like button, smash subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single tale of justice served. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll be cheering for the underdog and loving every second of this woman's comeuppance. Let's dive into one of the pettiest, most satisfying revenge stories I've ever lived through. You ready? Let's roll. The bike shop smelled like rubber and chain grease, a scent I'd grown to love over my 7 years as a bicycle mechanic. My name's Jay, or at least that's what we'll call me for this story. I was 28 but could pass for a college kid thanks to my youthful face. I'd been fixing bikes since I was 22. High-end carbon fiber racers, vintage steel frames, even those quirky e-bikes that cost more than my car. I'd seen it all. I wasn't just good, I was really good. Customers would come back grinning, raving about how their bikes rode smoother than ever. At CycleWorks, our little shop in a bustling college town, I'd built a reputation as the guy who could diagnose a creak or a wobble faster than you could say derailer. The service counter was my domain. It was where the magic happened. I'd listen to a customer's vague complaint about weird noises and pinpoint the issue in minutes. On a Saturday, the place was a zoo. Bells jingled every time the door swung open. Phones rang off the hook, and the line of customers snaked out the door. I thrive in the chaos. My hands move like a surgeon's, my brain firing on all cylinders. But not everyone saw the skill behind my baby face. It was one of those blisteringly busy Saturdays when she walked in. Let's call her Karen. Mid-40s, designer sunglasses perched on her head, yoga pants that screamed I paid $200 for these, and a carbon fiber road bike that probably cost more than my rent for a year. Her lips were pursed, her eyes scanning the shop like she was inspecting a dive bar she'd been forced to enter. I greeted her with my usual smile, the one I perfected after years of dealing with entitled customers. Hi, welcome to CycleWorks. What's going on with your bike today? I asked, leaning over the counter, ready to dive into the puzzle. Her eyes flicked over me, up, down, and dismissive. Is there someone older here? Someone more experienced? Her tone wasn't just skeptical. It was dripping with condescension, like I was some kid playing pretend behind the counter. My stomach twisted, a familiar pang of frustration. This wasn't the first time someone had sized me up and decided I didn't measure up. My youthful face, my slight build, people saw what they wanted to see. But this was next-level elitism. I kept my smile plastered on, though it felt like it might crack. I've been working on bikes for 7 years, ma'am. I can definitely help you out. What's the issue? She sighed, loud and theatrical, like I just asked her to explain quantum physics. I'd really prefer someone who knows what they're doing. This is a very expensive bike. She patted the frame like it was a prize racehorse. My jaw clenched, but I nodded. Years in customer service teach you to swallow your pride, even when it tastes like bile. I could have pushed back. I could have listed my credentials, hundreds of bikes built, thousands of repairs, certifications from brands most customers couldn't pronounce. But I didn't. Something about her smug certainty lit a spark in me, a quiet, simmering idea. If she wanted experience, I'd give her exactly what she asked for. All right, ma'am, I said, my voice sugar-sweet. Let me get someone for you. I turned to the back, where Frank was tinkering with a wheel. Frank was our newest tech, a grizzled guy in his late 50s with a salt and pepper beard and a knack for telling long-winded stories about his days as a truck driver. He'd only been in the bike industry for 2 years, still learning the ropes. Nice guy, solid builder, but diagnosing complex issues? That was a work in progress. He'd been hired to assemble bikes, not run the counter, but we were training him up to help out on busy days. "Hey, Frank," I called, keeping my tone casual. "Can you take this one? Lady needs some motorbike." Frank looked up, wiping his hands on a rag, and nodded. He ambled over, all easygoing charm, while I stepped aside to handle the growing line of customers. Karen's face lit up when she saw him. Gray hair, weather hands, the picture of experience. She practically shoved her bike at him, launching into a vague rant about shifting issues and odd noises. I busied myself with the next customer, but I kept one ear on their conversation. Frank was doing his best, asking broad questions, poking at the bike like it was a mystery novel he hadn't quite cracked. Karen's impatience was palpable. Her foot tapped. Her sighs grew louder. Meanwhile, I was in the zone, diagnosing a squeaky bottom bracket for one guy, booking a full tune-up for another, swapping a tube in record time. Customers were in and out, thanking me with smiles. The contrast wasn't lost on me. I was running circles around the experienced tech Karen had demanded. About 20 minutes in, Frank leaned over and whispered, "Hey, Jay, where do we keep the 10-speed chains?" I pointed him to the parts shelf, keeping my face neutral. Karen's eyes flicked toward me, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. I caught it, the moment she started to wonder if she'd made a mistake. That's when the idea solidified. I wasn't going to tell her she'd screwed up. I was going to show her. I kept working, my hands flying through repairs, my voice calm as I answered questions from other customers. Every so often, Frank would call me over with a quick, "Jay, is this cassette 2 worn? Or what's the torque spec for this derailleur?" Each time, I'd answer smoothly, rattling off part numbers or specs without missing a beat. Karen's frown deepened. Her arms crossed tighter. Her foot tapped faster. I could practically hear her thoughts. Why is this taking so long? The shop was a symphony of chaos. Clanging tools, ringing phones, customers chattering. But I was conducting it all with ease. Karen, meanwhile, was stuck in her own personal purgatory, watching Frank fumble through her very expensive bike. The irony was delicious. She wanted experience, and she'd gotten it, just not the kind she expected. Here's the thing about revenge. Sometimes, the best kind doesn't require you to lift a finger. I didn't sabotage Frank's work or badmouth Karen. I didn't need to. Her own assumptions were doing the heavy lifting. All I had to do was keep being my efficient, competent self and let the contrast speak for itself. Frank was trying hard, bless him. He'd check a part, then double-check it, then ask me if he'd missed anything. Each question was a tiny jab at Karen's confidence in her choice. I could see her glancing at me as I breezed through customer after customer, 15, maybe 20 in the span of an hour. I'd send quick fixes to the back for other techs to handle, keeping the line moving like a well-oiled machine. Meanwhile, Frank was still puzzling over her bike, muttering about cable tension and derailleur alignment. At one point, Karen snapped, "How long have you been doing this?" Her voice was sharp, edged with frustration. Frank, ever honest, shrugged and said, "Oh, about 2 years. But don't worry, I'm getting there." Then he dropped the bombshell. "You know Jay over there? He's been at this forever. Looks young, but he's the real deal. Can't judge a book by its cover, you know? He'd probably have your bike fixed by now." I nearly choked on my tongue, trying not to laugh. Frank hadn't overheard Karen's earlier jab. I hadn't told him a thing. He was just being his chatty, honest self. Karen's face froze, her lips a thin line. She didn't say a word, but her eyes burned holes in the counter. I kept my head down, pretending to focus on a repair order, but inside, I was cackling. The shop was alive with sensory overload. The hum of spinning wheels as techs tested bikes in the back. The sharp tang of degreaser mingling with the earthy scent of new tires. The clatter of tools hitting the workbench, punctuated by the occasional grunt from a tech wrestling with a stubborn bolt. Customers shuffled in and out, their voices a low hum of complaints and gratitude. My hands were smudged with grease, my fingers tingling from the constant grip of wrenches. Every so often, I'd catch Karen's eye, her posture rigid, her manicured nails drumming on the counter, her expensive bike sitting untouched as Frank rifled through a parts catalog. Let her stew, I thought, tightening a bolt on a customer's mountain bike. She thinks I'm some rookie who doesn't belong behind this counter? Fine, let her see what experience looks like. I wasn't angry, not exactly. It was more like a quiet, burning resolve. I'd spent years proving myself in this shop, earning the trust of customers and co-workers alike. I wasn't about to let some elitist with a pricey bike make me feel small. But I didn't need to yell or argue. I'd let her own choices bite her. The rush finally slowed, and the shop settled into a quieter rhythm. I glanced at the clock. Nearly an hour and a half had passed since Karen walked in. Frank was still hunched over her bike, tweaking something on the rear derailleur. Karen's face was a storm cloud, her arms crossed so tightly I thought she might snap her own elbows. I caught her eye and flashed a polite smile. "Everything okay over there?" I asked, my voice dripping with innocence. She didn't answer, just gave a curt nod and looked away. Frank, oblivious of the tension, kept chatting about the bike's components, throwing in random anecdotes about his old trucking routes. I could tell Karen was second from exploding, but she held it together, barely. I decided it was time for lunch. The line was gone, the other techs were handling the stragglers, and my stomach was growling. "Hey, Frank," I called. "I'm heading to Taco Bell. You got this?" He gave me a thumbs up, and I grabbed my jacket. As I passed Karen, I couldn't resist one last jab. "Have a great day, miss," I said, my smile as bright as a spotlight. She didn't even look at me, just kept staring at her bike like it had personally betrayed her. I strolled across the street, the warm July air hitting my face, and ordered a burrito. The whole time, I was grinning like an idiot. I pictured Karen standing there, watching Frank fumble, realizing she bet on the wrong horse. It wasn't just petty, it was poetic. She demanded someone more experienced, and now she was stuck waiting while the kid she dismissed, ran the show. When I got back 20 minutes later, Karen was just leaving. Her bike was finally done, and she was wheeling out the door, her face a mask of barely concealed frustration. I caught her eye one last time. "Hope everything worked out for you," I called, my voice cheerful. She didn't respond, just pushed through the door and disappeared into the parking lot. Frank turned to me, wiping his hands on a rag. "Man, she was a piece of work," he said, chuckling. "Think she learned her lesson?" I just shrugged, but inside I was soaring. Karen had spent nearly 2 hours in the shop for a fix that would have taken me 15 minutes. All because she judged me by my face instead of my skills. Her impatience, her embarrassment, her silent fuming. It was the sweetest revenge I could have asked for, and I hadn't even had to lift a finger. You ever wonder how some people can be so quick to judge? Karen walked into that shop thinking she had me all figured out. Too young, too inexperienced, not worth her time. But in the end, her own arrogance was her downfall. That day taught me something. Sometimes, the best way to prove someone wrong is to let them dig their own grave. I didn't need to yell or fight. I just did my job, let her assumptions run their course, and watched karma do the rest. It's a small victory, sure, but man, it felt good. What do you think? Have you ever had a moment where someone underestimated you, only to eat their words later? Drop it in the comments. I'm dying to hear your stories. If this story made you laugh, cheer, or just shake your head at Karen's epic fail, smash that like button and let us know in the comments. What's the pettiest revenge you've ever pulled or witnessed? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss another tale of sweet, sweet justice. We got more stories like this coming your way, so stick around. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.